Rojo build. This video came out a few days later than I would have liked, but that's because I got some new equipment inside the shop, and it caught me up a little bit, a little bit of a delay. So back to these heads, and then in the next one, hopefully I give you a nice tour of the shop, of what would be Joe's competition engines. So this cylinder head right here is the 706 head that, if I need to remind, is just a valve job and enlarged to a larger 2-inch intake valve. That's all that's really been done, and a bowl blend. And the whole bowl blend was done in the previous video. I see I posted somewhere up here around now. But yes, that being said, other than a valve job and a bowl blend, and we did enlarge the intake valve, that's all that has been done to the cylinder head. I will preface saying that when I did put on the bench, it was like me and my friend were pressed for time. I needed to go to work, and he needed to do another job, and well, we only flow tested the intake side. The exhaust side, I'm very confident would only really pick up, and honestly, it'd be smaller numbers. And at the same time, I don't think any major horsepower change will happen because of the exhaust side. Because the exhaust side, in comparison, does flow quite well. The intake side does flow pretty decent for a stock cylinder head, but as you can see, the little changes that we did make a positive impact. They were flow tested on a Superflow 750, and my friend's bench is known for being somewhat on the conservative side as well, which I'm okay with. I'm not into the bragging numbers or whatnot. I just care about power and getting things down the track. That's all that matters. If I see a difference on his bench from where I started off from, I know where I'm at. And until I get my own flow bench, that's how things are going to be. So on the intake side, a stock 706 head off of the Stan Weiss site. These are the numbers that you'll typically see. At 300 lift, 189. At 400 lift, 208, 500 lift, 219, and at 600 lift, we got 223 CFM. So with just technically a 4-angle valve job and a back cut on the intake valve, and I will say not an aggressive back cut, and this is still a 45-degree seat, where at this lift range, a 45-degree seat will be best. If we were going much higher in lift, then we could look at 50-degree seat stuff, but at this point, a 45-degree seat works great. So changes at 300 lift, we have a loss of 174 compared to 189. Now, we'll talk a little later why I think that might have happened. But then at 400 lift, we got a decent increase at 216 from 208. At 500 lift, 219 to 234. That's a pretty decent gain. At 600 lift, 223 to 235, and it pretty much held in the 230s all the way straight through. That's pretty much where it just stopped. So I see nothing but good gains, in my opinion. I think it was definitely worth doing for sure, and we see, an improvement. That's what we were shooting for. Now, these are the valves that were checked with. I almost will be willing to bet that the factory valve would have flowed probably a little bit more. The factory valve tends to have a decent sized back cut, and I think that's what actually would have helped, especially the low lift numbers. I'm about to sneeze. Woo! Yes. So to help the low lift numbers, I think the back cut, this has a pretty small back cut. I could add more back cut with my machine, but right now this is where we're gonna keep it at. I don't want to go back and forth and make sure that my chain is going in the right direction. No doubt, honestly, that a little bit more of a back cut would actually increase numbers, probably across the board. Again, exhaust valve, don't do that. Don't even think about putting a back cut on your exhaust valve. You want to keep the exhaust on the other side of the valve, and you don't want it to be backtracking. So, where would I change? So, I think this combination will just do a little bit better with a little bit of chamber work. If you look, the valve actually sits, pretty proud on the seat, which is good. But if I can imagine, if I laid a head gasket here, there might be some room for improvement, and where probably the shrouding was showing up on the flow bench at the lower lifts. And as that valve opened, you saw that it only improved. So that, again, this is just with the bowl blend. No actual work was done in the port. If I was to go further, a gasket match, and then drive it forward, I think this head will probably end up, 250 range, maybe even 260. Is very possible. I'm not going to go any further because this customer isn't paying for any port work. I do have a rec port head that I will probably show a little bit of work and before and after on that head as well. If we look quickly down the port here, let me run and get a light. So we look down this port here. Line of sight is pretty good. Again, a little bit of a gasket match and straightening the port out per se, and making the port more of a straighter shot, removing any obstructions. I'm sure we'll pick up on the bench, and do a little bit at a time, go back and forth. And like I said, 250, 260 should be fairly easy to do, and beyond. If you really go crazy, I've seen numbers in the 300 range. But for your average do-yourselfer, if you're just concentrating on removing a material that you need to remove more than just removing just because, I'm more than confident you could get one of these heads in the 260 range. No problem. Just, again, stay in control, and it's easy to take too much out if you're just trying to make a big hole. And you don't want to do that. You want to get proper shape. The proper shape is more important than a big orifice. So make sure where a lot of people get wrong, it's right down here. You don't want to make that short side too short and run into a bunch of sadness for the moment. Let me not blind you with the light here. So that's all with this. Enough of me rambling and stuttering over myself. This 706 head, again, we saw good gains. Good gains across the board. And this head should theoretically be able to support close to 500 horsepower, give or take. And that's more than enough for this small 5.3. And all this is written on the cam card. This is the cam that's going to be going into that motor. There'll be more on it later. So we'll leave it at that. This is Brojo Bills. Like, share, and subscribe. Ring the bell.